The Man Who Wasn't. The story of Amadeus Nickels.
So don't you weep for someone who wasn't there.
Who wasn't there?
Don't you search the empty air. Who wasn't there?
Who wasn't there?
I'm a nondescript reflection of a man who didn't care. No, I'm the man who wasn't there. Just a passing by. Just a passing by.
This is the story of Amadeus Nickels, a little man of little consequence. He was average in every meaningful way: appearance, nature, and habits. Amadeus was a human stock photograph like the ones you'd find in a cheap picture frame in Walmart, nondescript and instantly forgettable. Amadeus had no family and no friends. He had a job doing average things for an average company. He had no direct contact with his fellow employees, only the occasional email. The files he worked on appeared in his in tray each morning. When the day was done, all the files would be in his out tray, and in the morning they'd be gone, with new files in his in tray every day without fail. Amadeus did this every weekday of every year for 20 years, except for his annual 2-week vacation and the occasional sick day, earning an average salary. Amadeus never made extravagant purchases. His paycheck was used almost entirely for essentials: rent, food, and clothes, things like that. So, at the end of the month, Amadeus had funds left over. He didn't know what to do with the extra money. He considered putting the funds in the bank, but he decided against it. He found visits to the bank annoying, and he didn't like being annoyed. Instead, Amadeus decided to invest the money in the stock market. He didn't know a thing about investing, but he never cared about things like that. So, Amadeus came up with a strategy which made sense to him. He would start investing in companies whose names started with the letter A and work his way down the alphabet. This plan may not make sense to you, but it made sense to Amadeus, who didn't really care about money. His needs were minimal. He had what he needed. Anything else would annoy him, and Amadeus was easily annoyed. If Amadeus Nickels disappeared one day, perhaps abducted by aliens, why aliens would abduct Amadeus is unclear, but if they did, it would probably be because he's average, an everyman, a representative specimen of an unremarkable species. In any case, if he did disappear, abducted by aliens or not, no one would notice and no one would care. Not even his boss, whom he never met. Amadeus applied for his job online 20 years ago. He received his acceptance and instructions the same way. He arrived at work on the appointed day, at the appointed time, and he had his instructions. Everything was organized. Everything was unremarkably ordinary, except for the isolation, which didn't bother him. In fact, he liked the quiet. He found most people annoying, except for Georgie, the popcorn man. He wasn't annoying. Amadeus Nickels was invisible, not really invisible in a physical sense, but invisible in any meaningful way. He was a man who existed in a vacuum. One could argue that he barely existed at all. Every morning, Amadeus would wake up at the same time, 7:27 a.m. It could be the weekend when he didn't have to go to work, or when he was on vacation, or even when he was sick. Every day at 7:27, his eyes opened. No alarm clock, radio, or any other stimulus was needed. At 7:27 every morning, his eyes would open. He'd look at the clock, and it always said the same thing. 7:27. Amadeus knew the clock wasn't broken, that it wasn't stuck on 7:27, because he checked it several times a day. But no matter how hard he tried to sleep in, he always woke up at 7:27. Routine was the life Amadeus Nickels lived, and not just the time he woke up. After using the bathroom for 3 minutes, he'd brush his teeth for 2 minutes, take a shower for 7 minutes, and dress for 4 minutes. Every day, Amadeus would eat the same breakfast, a bowl of cinnamon oatmeal and a mug of tasteless instant coffee. Breakfast took 9 minutes, after which he would put on his coat and an old-fashioned fedora, which men stopped wearing in the 1960s. He'd walk 20 minutes to work, passing the same stores like Betsy's gift shop. Georgie, the popcorn man, never appeared in the morning, but like clockwork, he would arrive on Amadeus's corner every afternoon, rain or shine, summer or winter. After arriving for work, Amadeus would do his average job and eat his average lunch, consisting of a chicken salad sandwich and coffee, which he purchased at the bodega on the corner. In the afternoon, he did the same thing he did in the morning. At 5:01, not 4:59 or 5:02, Amadeus would put on his coat and his fedora, which men stopped wearing in the 1960s, and head home. When he arrived, he'd have a dinner of frozen pizza, or, for a treat, a chicken pot pie. He would watch television, the same shows on the same channels, until 11 o'clock. Then he would go to bed.
To license it.
The next day, he'd start the routine all over again. On the way to work, Amadeus would never stop to look in the windows, but occasionally, on the way home, he'd stop to see what new treasures Betsy put in the window of Betsy's gift shop. He looked forward to each new delivery of strange trinkets and odd souvenirs. He'd look, but he never went inside. His only human interaction was with Georgie, the popcorn man, who magically appeared on the corner of his block every day at the same time, selling fresh, hot buttered popcorn and burnt sugar taffy suckers. Amadeus would always buy one burnt sugar taffy sucker, and Georgie, and his thick Greek accent, would always say,
Thank you, Maestro. Come here, closer, closer. You're a good soul.
Why Georgie called Amadeus Maestro and why he said he was a good soul was a mystery. Georgie didn't know Amadeus's name, personality, or anything else about the man who always bought one of his burnt sugar taffy suckers. Amadeus thought it strange but nice. He liked Georgie. He wasn't annoying. This was Amadeus's life, every day for the last 20 years until 2 weeks ago. That day started the same as every day until his walk home. He stopped in front of Betsy's as he did occasionally. He looked in the window. Betsy had a display of new cards for all kinds of occasions. One of the cards caught his eye. It had his name, Amadeus, scrawled across the front. Amadeus thought that strange. Amadeus is not a common name. He took it as a sign. So, for the first time in 20 years, Amadeus went inside. Amadeus walked in, ignored by the woman behind the counter, who Amadeus assumed was Betsy. She was busy putting red nail polish on her fingers. She paid no attention to Amadeus, so Amadeus strolled around the shop looking for the display of cards like the one he spotted in the window. After an exhaustive search, Amadeus found the display. It was one of those freestanding rotating racks that can easily fall over. Amadeus looked, but there was no card with his name scrawled across the front. Frustrated, Amadeus went to the front counter and stood there waiting for Betsy to notice him. Amadeus coughed to get her attention. It didn't work. So Amadeus said, and waited. Still, no reaction.
Excuse me, Betsy. I'm looking for a card.
The woman behind the counter doesn't bother to look up, but she does answer.
I'm not Betsy.
Is Betsy around?
There is no Betsy.
But, the name on the front window says Betsy's Gift Shop.
The woman behind the counter looks at Amadeus and sighs.
There is no Betsy. What do you want?
And she goes back to doing her nails.
I want a card.
All the cards are on a rack in the back.
No, not the one I want. That is not there.
Then we don't have it.
But there is one in the window. It has Amadeus scrawled across the front.
It's the only one I have.
Yes, I'll take it.
It's part of the window display.
I will take it anyway. You can replace it with one of the other cards on the rack.
Amadeus finds this woman, who isn't Betsy, very annoying. He was right not to ever go into the shop for all those years, but he wanted that card.
Why would you want to buy a card with Amadeus on it?
It is my name.
Why the hell would you want to buy a card with your name on it? What are you going to do? Send it to yourself?
Amadeus never got angry, but he was very annoyed.
Are you going to sell me that card or not?
The woman sighs one more time. To show Amadeus that she was also annoyed. The woman gets up from behind the counter and retrieves the card with Amadeus scrawled across the front. She hands it to Amadeus.
That will be $9.95.
Amadeus thought this was an outrageous amount for a card that only had Amadeus scrawled across the front. He was tired of this woman, and he wanted to leave before Georgie went home, and he'd miss buying his burnt sugar taffy sucker.
Where is the envelope? The yellow one that was with it in the window.
You want an envelope?
Yes, the yellow one in the window.
Exasperated, the woman, who isn't Betsy, gets up, goes to the window, and retrieves the yellow envelope.
That will be another 5 cents.
But all cards come with an envelope.
Not cards with a stupid name like Amadeus on the front. You want it? It's 5 cents.
Amadeus looked at the envelope and noticed that the woman, who wasn't Betsy, smeared red nail polish on the front.
Excuse me, you got your red nail polish smeared all over the front.
Yeah. So what? I won't charge any extra for the nail polish.
Amadeus had enough of this woman who wasn't Betsy. He was sure the real Betsy, if there is a real Betsy, wouldn't be as annoying. Amadeus reached into his pocket and took out a $10 bill. He looked at the woman who wasn't Betsy and handed it to her. She takes the money and shoves it in her pocket. She doesn't say thank you or have a nice day or any other kind of perfunctory pleasantry that one would expect. So, Amadeus leaves with his card, with Amadeus scrawled across the front and a yellow envelope with red nail polish smeared on the front. On the way home, Amadeus sees that Georgie is still there, waiting for him, with a burnt sugar taffy sucker in his hand. Amadeus smiles, takes the burnt sugar taffy sucker, and sticks his hand in his pocket to pay. But Georgie shakes his head.
No. You're a good soul, maestro. Very good soul, indeed.
Georgie smiles, picks up the handles of his makeshift popcorn cart, and wheels away down the street. Now, you may be thinking, what is the point of the story of Amadeus Nickels? Well, we're about to come to that. Amadeus continues home with a card that had Amadeus scrawled across the front and a yellow envelope with a smear of red nail polish on the front. Amadeus had his dinner as usual, watches television until 11 p.m. as usual, and goes to bed as usual. The next morning, when the clock beside Amadeus's bed displays 7:27, Amadeus's eyes don't open. On the last day of every month, Amadeus would slide his rent check under the landlord's door. But not this month. When no rent check appeared under the landlord's door on the last day of the month, the landlord knew something was wrong. So he went to Amadeus's apartment and knocked on the door. But Amadeus didn't answer, so the landlord used his pass key to enter. There was a strange smell in the apartment. The landlord followed the smell into the bedroom to find Amadeus in bed with a burnt sugar taffy sucker on his chest. Amadeus Nickels was dead. On the side table, there was a sealed yellow envelope with Amadeus's average-looking handwriting on the front. It read, "To be opened by whoever finds me upon my demise." So, the landlord opened the yellow envelope with smeared red nail polish on the front. He removes the card from the envelope with Amadeus scrawled across the front. Inside, Amadeus wrote his last will and testament.
I leave all my earthly possessions and my stock portfolio, worth approximately $7 million, to Georgie, the popcorn man. He never annoyed me. My only request is to be buried with one of Georgie's burnt sugar taffy suckers.
Evidently, Amadeus's strategy of investing in companies starting with the letter A and working his way toward the last letter of the alphabet, which is correctly pronounced as Z, not Z, worked out pretty well. He only ever got to the letter N, but the companies he chose had names like Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. not bad for an average man who knew nothing about the stock market or the companies listed on the various exchanges. No one knows why Amadeus passed away so young. He was healthy with no diseases or anything that would cause his sudden demise. Perhaps Amadeus Nickels just got tired of being average, or maybe he didn't want to be annoyed by people like the woman in Betsy's gift shop who wasn't named Betsy. So ends the story of Amadeus Nickels, a man of little consequence except for Georgie, the popcorn man, who, when he heard of his good fortunes, had only one thing to say in his heavy Greek accent.
Thank you, Maestro. You're a good soul. A good soul.
I'm a man who's drawn in pencil on a page that's turning brown. I'm the ghost of every footprint in the center of the town. But the rain comes down to wash the street, and I'm just incomplete. Oh, I'm the shadow of a shadow, the echo of a sigh, a common man of no importance, just a passing by, just a passing by.
You've been listening to The Man Who Wasn't, the first standalone episode in the Story of series for the Audio Zoo Podcast Drama Network, written and produced by Jerry Bader, co-producer and sound designer Sash Mutzer, starring Randy Thompson as the narrator, Dan Mullins as Amadeus Nickels, Ori Streets as Not Betsy, and Sash Mutzer as Georgie the Popcorn Man. Music provided by the following artists, all featured on Pixabay.com. A big thank you to Dmitry Kolesnikov, C-Cotty3, Alexei Bestruchko, Icolics AJ, Nikita Kondrashev, Jeff Harvey, Kornev Music, Ivy Music, John Nathan, Catch22 Music, and Music for Videos. If you enjoyed this series, visit our website, audiozoopodcast.com, for more immersive audio dramas. You can support us by joining our Patreon page. You'll be able to find that through our website. You can leave us a review or subscribe on your favorite podcast directory and connect with us on Facebook at Audio Zoo Podcast.